In this episode of PulsePoint, we'll update you on these topics. Has gender ideology reached its tipping point? Teachers in the US say that students being distracted by cell phones is a major problem. A new German study shows vast majority of people will grow out of transgenderism within 5 years. Major sports leagues in the US dump pride as Biden fights to fill the void. Finally, the US Supreme Court refused to hear the safety concerns of a chemical abortion drug. Welcome to PulsePoint, the latest media stories and research related to family and society that you need to know about. It's time to cut through the spin and uncover the real issues. I'm Tampi Sowers. New polling out in the US shows that nearly 2/3 of registered voters, that is 65%, say whether a person is a man or a woman is determined by the sex assigned to them at birth. Just a third say whether someone is a man or a woman can be different from the sex at birth. Despite the 24/7 indoctrination and messaging of this narrative, 90% of Trump supporters believe in biology, but only about 4 in 10 Biden supporters. But note, especially the changing views about gender identity, the share of voters who say that sex at birth determines whether someone is a man or a woman has increased since 2017. And this increase has occurred within both Republicans and Democrats. In 2017, 53% of voters said sex assigned at birth determines gender. That has grown to 65%. New Zealand's polling shows a similar trend. The new government has banned mobile phones in schools, but it received some opposition from principals saying it was unworkable and a waste of money. Now, New Zealand has never polled teachers to find out what their views are on mobile phones in classrooms, but Pew Research in the US has, and we suspect that the findings would be echoed here in New Zealand. About 7 in 10 high school teachers, that is 72%, say that students being distracted by cell phones is a major problem in their classroom, compared with 33% of middle school teachers, which is our intermediate school age, and 6% of elementary school teachers, primary school. 7 in 10 teens ages 13 to 17 say there are generally more benefits than harms to people their age using smartphones, while 3 in 10 say the opposite, and 45% of teens say smartphones make it easier for people their age to do well in school, compared with 23% who say they make it harder. Now, we are looking forward to our interview with Jonathan Haidt, the author of the new book, The Anxious Generation, who will be speaking directly on this issue and the solutions of the phone-based childhood. You can now go to forumonthefamily.nz to register for this important conference. A decade-long study out of Germany shows the overwhelming majority of young people who identify as transgender will grow out of the diagnosis within just 5 years. The most likely group to change its mind and detransition is 15 to 19-year-old females. A similar supermajority of trans-identifying people suffered from at least one other psychological condition, found researchers who tracked all children and young adults diagnosed with gender dysphoria over a 9-year period. Now, nearly 3/4 of young people who identify as transgender, that is 72%, had at least one other psychiatric condition. Trans-identifying young people were most likely to suffer from depressive disorders, as well as anxiety disorders, emotional unstable personality disorders of the borderline type, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. The Central Institute for Statutory Health Insurance in Germany reviewed all the medical billing records from the nation's healthcare providers for insured people between the ages of 5 and 24 diagnosed with gender identity disorders from 2013 to 2022. The results are consistent with verifiable expert data flooding in from around the world. A team of Dutch researchers came to a nearly identical conclusion earlier this year. Other studies have found people who identify as transgender or non-binary are up to 6 times as likely to be diagnosed with autism than the norm. As we have repeatedly said during this debate, we should heal the mind, not cut and chemicalize the body. The Biden administration has come under fire for its heavy promotion of LGBTQ Pride Month across government agencies in light of more pressing national issues such as the cost of living crisis, inflation, to border issues. The Biden's administration has also appointed over 200 LGBT-identifying government leaders. However, 5 U.S. major sports leagues, the National Hockey League, National Basketball Association, National Football League, and Major League Soccer have decided to push back on Biden's over-the-top approach to Pride Month. Unlike past years, the Pride flag used to color major sporting leagues' logos. However, this year, not only major sports leagues, but the likes of NASCAR, the PGA Tour, to the WWE have decided not to bow to Pride Month celebration or messaging. Now, 2 years ago, this kind of resistance from any U.S. sporting team or fan base was unheard of. It would appear sports teams and fans want to return to just sports without a side serving of politics or cultural wars. And finally, last week, the Supreme Court in the U.S. unanimously rejected a challenge to the safety and availability of a widely used abortion pill for chemical abortions, which is also used in New Zealand. It was the court's first abortion decision since the overturn of Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. In the case of FDA versus Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, the court unanimously rejected a challenge of the FDA's regulation of the abortion drug, citing the pro-life organizations lacked legal standing to sue. In other words, because they could conscientiously object to prescribing the drug, they weren't affected, so the ruling was based on procedural grounds. The court's ruling, therefore, did not address safety concerns or the FDA's decision since 2016 to relax regulations on the abortion drug. Mifepristone remains a dangerous drug that now causes more than 60% of all abortions in the United States. The latest figures in New Zealand show that approximately 63% of all abortions were medication abortions, primarily involving mifepristone, reflecting the increased reliance on this method. Watch Dr. Norman McLean's explanation of a medical abortion which kills the unborn child, but also can harm the woman. You can now go to abortionprocedures.nz to get more information. And that's the latest episode of PulsePoint. You can check out all these stories and more on our website, familyfirst.nz. We'll keep watching the news so that you don't have to. We'll see you next time.